Okay, so when it comes to ABC versus Pendulum Magicians, I feel like the Magicians are super favored because Buster Dragon can only deal with one card, so that leaves the Pendulum Magician player with having 5 cards in his hand, being able to play freely, summon powerful cards like Supreme Clearwing Dragon, Ignista again, being able to do crazy OTKs through the ABC player's field, and the ABC player's hand traps aren't so effective against the Magician deck, whereas the Magician deck's hand traps will be super effective against ABC. You know, ABC lose very hard to cards like Ash, Ogre, Droll, Gamma, whatever hand trap may be. The ABC player is super weak to it because the deck itself is very fragile. And that's why I feel like Magicians are super favored in this matchup.
ABC versus Pendulum, in my opinion, is pretty favored towards Pendulum. We had that same scenario with Metal Foes versus ABC, and it kind of remained the same. The banishing of Dragon Buster against other decks does a lot because they invest into one single card. While Pendulum always has the scales, which, like, if you banish one of their scales, it doesn't accomplish much. Now, especially with Harmonizing Magician, there's the argument that you can banish the Harmonizing with Buster, but at that point still, they have access. Now, especially because people play White Wing, they still have access to more synchros after that, and you can't really put up a field that hits them a lot. ABC relies on having Buster and hand traps, which hit Spiral especially, but like those hand traps aren't that great against Pendulum, so you only have that Buster, which is also not really good against Pendulum. On the other side, if Pendulum gets to go first, ABC isn't really a deck that can deal with a whole lot of fields, especially if they can't use their hand traps effectively. A Baguska or a Tornado Dragon can quickly end the game. The trap is also pretty good. Omega taking away cards from your opponent. And like, damage step shenanigans even can happen, like Violet Poison just crashing into a Buster can easily force it. And a pretty easy thing Pendulum players can do to prepare for the ABC matchup is just playing a Crimson Blader in their extra deck, which they can always access. If they get it on board, the ABC player can't really do much. Siding makes the thing a bit more interesting because there's a lot to side against Pendulum. And as ABC already mains all cards against Spiral, they can use their side deck to play a lot of cards like Dimensional Barrier, Anti-Spell Fragrance, to just not let the Pendulum players play. I would still say the match is okay-ish. It can be die roll decided, but it's the same with most matchups. If you get to that mid to late game, it gets into a resource management game, which especially in ABC now is pretty important because you only have your 3 Busters. We don't have Emerald anymore, so you have to think how you use your resources, what you banish, when you tag out, what you do out of it. So I'm still looking forward to seeing that matchup too.
ABC finds itself in quite a strong position against Pendulum Magicians in that their main line of play gets to banishing removal, which can be absolutely devastating when you're playing against Pendulum cards that to some degree rely on their recursion ability. So if you can set yourself up in a position going first with a Dragon Buster and you banish some key scales, the Pendulum player never gets to make any plays. But on the flip side of that, if the Pendulum player won the die roll and they set up with a Time Pendulum Graph, the field spells can get shut down before they have any effect, and the ABC player just won't have anything cards to play with.